Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today I got a couple pieces of news that I want to share with you. But first, I want to read you a story of what life could look like in the future if we, not only as a nation, but as a world, continue to go down the path that we are currently in. I was talking to someone a while back, and we got into the subject of the economy. And I kind of told them that we kind of like live in an open prison, right? Because we are pretty much governed, or our lives are governed by the economics that the government puts out. What do I mean by that? If you don't pay taxes, what happens, ladies and gentlemen? That's pretty much what it comes down to. And taxes are in the form of many things that are not called taxes. For example, regulations are taxes. Do you really think that your pizza shop owner or your deli shop owner really run that restaurant? Yes, but who do they run it for? It's under their name, right? They are the owners, but without adhering to the dozens, if not hundreds, of regulations that the government tells them they have to follow in order to keep that shop open, do you think that they would stay open? Well, this story here is kind of like a fictional story of what could happen in the future if we allow the forces of government to continue to tax us to death, not only through direct taxation, but through taxation like inflation and regulations. Globalism is economic slavery. Now, I hope that you listen to this because this is a very revealing story as to how our future may look if we continue to allow governments to get away what they are currently getting away with. And some people would ask me, and I've received emails as to, AP, you're presenting the problem, but what's the solution? Well, I'm going to tell you the solution right now before we even read the story, is what I've always said: be prepared, stay prepared, because only with preparedness can you exercise your no muscle. The next time they come out with a little bug and they say, hey, you have to take this or you lose your job, you can say, hey, don't worry, that little juicy juice you're trying to introduce into my body doesn't really align with my morals, so I'm going to go ahead and say no thank you. I'll stay home for the next 6 months because I am prepared in every way that I can in order to do so. That's being able to exercise your no muscle, ladies and gentlemen. Get out of the system as much as you can. What do I mean about that? I don't mean go close all your check account, go ahead and tear up your credit cards, tear up your license, everything, just get out of the system. No, but get all of your excess wealth, the wealth that you create with your labor. Get all of the excess wealth out of the system as much as you can. Imagine life in the near future. A man resides alone in a tiny apartment. He would prefer to be married, but the state considers that an antiquated institution. He would prefer to have children, but he can't afford them. Besides, his yearly carbon allowance is insufficient to cover another resource-wasting human being, or a useless eater, as they like to call us. He has never owned anything. He rents his bedroom, his furnishings, and his meager entertainments. Each month, a digital account associated with his ID receives a number of central bank digital currency units. How much he receives depends on how many hours he works at his government job, how much the government values his work, how much the government taxes him for the privilege of using public infrastructure, and how much of his income the government decides should be redistributed to other citizens in need. After taxes, rents, utilities, and other assorted municipal, state, federal, and international fees are deducted from his earnings, he has little, if any, discretionary spending. Meaning what? That he's probably living the life that is very close to that of which many Americans are living today, just keeping his head above water. Can you relate to this scenario? If he chooses to save that income to invest in his future, the government informs him that his central bank digital currency units disappear within 90 days. Remember, programmable money is what CBDCs are all about. This is the only reason they want CBDCs, because they can program your money to disappear at the push of a button if you say or do something that does not agree with the state. If he tries to purchase something that the government has banned, he forfeits what he currently has. If he does something that the government deems contrary to his well-being, his social credit score decreases. and a fraction of his discretionary income disappears. Every few weeks, a digital doctor running on AI appears on the video screen in his apartment with a detailed list of all of the unhealthy things he has done since their last interaction. He is informed that a portion of his temporary savings will be redistributed to citizens with healthier habits. His AI health monitor tells him that he must immediately report to the closest pharmaceutical distribution center so that he can be injected with the latest juicy juice. Failure to do so will result in the deactivation of all electronic entertainment devices and a permanent mark on his social credit score. And so many people right now that are listening to me read this are saying that will never happen. Well, it's happening right now in other nations. He is unhappy, and because the state's AI supervisor has detected his unhappiness, the display monitor in his apartment encourages him to find personal meaning by doing what? By joining the fight against global warming. And for a while, he does just that. He attends community meetings in his apartment building where government officials talk about the importance of saving the planet by owning nothing. He chats with anonymous strangers, and they all agree that the sacrifices they are making to save the world are definitely worth it. He wakes up one morning to discover that his social credit score has now risen a bit. Isn't that great? And that he has been rewarded with a few extra central bank digital currency units. Still, our future man remains unhappy. Now remember, how is he being rewarded with extra currency units? They're being taken away from someone else, just like in the beginning of this story, they were taken away from him. Then one day sirens blare and his apartment monitor flashes with breaking news. The country is at war. He listens intently but can't figure out which foreign nations are attacking. The trusted new anchors tell him that peace, prosperity, and freedom are all at risk. He steps outside his tiny apartment to find other solitary renters fired up and talking excitedly about the battles to come. He walks back inside to find his AI supervisor informing him that he has been personally selected to protect the homeland from its enemies. Yet they don't even know who the enemies are. For the first time in many years, our future man feels alive because now he has purpose, ladies and gentlemen. He soon finds himself in boot camp where he enjoys regular exercise, discipline, and camaraderie. 6 months later, he and his new friends are shipped overseas. Strangely, in all this time, nobody has explained whom they will be actually fighting. And all he knows is that we are at war with authoritarians that wish to take away our democracy. There is anticipation in his camp and endless talk of adventure. Then, when everyone least expects it, a thunderous swarm of drones attacks from overhead. Nobody has time to react. Explosions seem to come out of nowhere. He sees the bodies of his friends torn to pieces. Then everything goes dark. He awakens in a hospital severely injured, is called a hero, and is later sent home. When he arrives, he notices bread lines outside the government's genetically engineered food distribution centers. He hears a beggar on the street joke that they should call them insect lines, since that is all that there is to eat. He learns that someone else has moved into his old apartment, but he is offered a new one because of his military service. It is smaller and has even fewer furnishings than the one he lost. He realizes that most of his former neighbors never returned from the war, and that many of the newcomers now living in their apartments look and sound like those people he was told to fight overseas. Nothing makes sense. His injuries torment him. He feels even more lost and lonely than before he went to war. His AI supervisor informs him that he has been added to a list of people considered domestic teas. That's after he has given all for his country, ladies and gentlemen. And remaining on this list will make it hard for him to find a job. And then, ladies and gentlemen, and this is being done in other countries, his digital doctor asks, would you like some assistance in ending your own life? And he is told you can save others by permanently reducing your carbon footprint. In agony, he wonders, how did we get here? Ladies and gentlemen, the rest of this story is the point that I've been trying to push for all these years, so that people can wake up to the fact that without sound money, we the people have zero power. And with fiat currency, the power goes all to the federal government. The shortest answer to our future friend is this: governments abandoned sound money. They replaced gold coins with paper currency. They made it illegal for ordinary citizens to conduct business freely and demand that government-issued bills be used in economic transactions. Then they gave private central banks the authority to print these bills whenever they determined that doing so would be good for the economy. I was telling someone the other day that the Federal Reserve being allowed to print money, right, is a way of allowing them to control how much your labor is worth. Because the more inflation that there is, the less that the dollars that you already earned into existence are actually worth or able to buy you stuff. Whose economy do central bankers really protect? Is it Wall Street's economy or the average layman in the street? We would think that with a name of Federal Reserve, that it would be for the average person in the street. Although putatively charged with financial duties to maximize employment and minimize inflation, central banks function as market manipulators and money printers for overspending governments. By increasing the supply of paper currency, the price of consumer goods rises. However, the numerical price of stock market shares also goes up. These capital assets do not gain any real value, but their rising prices give the illusion of economic growth. So, for example, a house today that now costs $480,000, but 6 or 7 years ago only cost $240,000. Is that house really more valuable today? Does it bring more value? It's still the same house with 3 bedrooms, 2,000 square feet, a pool in the back, whatever it is, right? It's still the same thing, still has the same number of bricks. So why does it cost twice as much today than it did 5, 6 years ago? Well, it's because the dollars are now worth a lot less and it takes twice as many of them to buy the same stuff. It's not that you're any richer. It's not that you have more wealth. It's just that you are now interacting with dollars that are worth less. However, the numerical price of stock market shares also goes up. Yeah, look at the stock market, 41,000 and change, incredible. But are those stocks, are those shares worth any more in real value? By increasing the supply of paper currency, the price of consumer goods rises. However, the numerical value of price stocks in the market also goes up, making people feel like they are wealthier when in reality, they really aren't. These capital assets do not gain any real value, but their rising prices give the illusion of economic growth. Many bad companies that would never survive in a free market become lucrative investment opportunities in a fake market, which is exactly what we have. Easy money sustains companies that produce no market value. Who loses most in this artificial arrangement? Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be you, even if you don't own any stocks. The poorest people who have no stocks and only limited cash savings loses the most. They have watched the $100 bill hidden under their mattress lose most of its value over the last 50 years. So they're saying, even though you don't invest in the stock market, you are still losing the most. Why? Because you are saving your money instead of making it grow through entrepreneurship and or investing and or putting it into gold and silver, which preserves your purchasing power. You have just lost all that value over those years for the sweat equity that you put into earning those dollars. Neither fiat currency nor central banks have any functional place in free societies. Governments that manipulate the value of money, rig markets, and steal from the working poor. Absolutely 100% correct. The wealthiest end up owning everything while everyone else tries to balance life precariously on a tightrope of consumer debts, mortgages, long-term loans, and the growing prospect of insolvency. This world that financial and political elites have built is unsustainable. It's also kind of economic slavery. Because it is unsustainable, those who have benefited most from its creation will do anything they must to survive its collapse. They're talking about fiat currency. Remember, the greatest threat to governments is that we get rid of fiat currency and that we go back to stable, sound money. Why is that? Because it takes away their control. Are you tired, ladies and gentlemen, of being controlled by a central government with one tool and one tool only, and that is the fiat currency that they make law that you have to follow, that you have to use? That's how they control us. Some people will say, well, no, it's not that. It's the military state that they've made up. It's the military, it's the police, it's this organization, that organization. How do those people get paid? They get paid in the exact same fiat currency that is being used to control us and them as well. A crashing dollar does not matter if those who control the financial system today control the central bank digital currencies tomorrow. And that is 100% fact, because a CBDC that is centralized by government is even worse than having a fiat currency, i.e. the dollar as we know it today. Gross inequality and rampant poverty do not matter if governments can convince unhappy citizens that climate change, disease, and war require them to own less and sacrifice more, while they sit up there in the ivory towers and eat the best of everything and live the best life that they can possibly live. Growing public anger does not matter if those with armies can censor speech, throttle food supplies, foment wars, and imprison dissidents. Ponder this: how much of the story above seems foreign, and how much of it seems painfully familiar? Your answer tells us just how much time we have left. And ladies and gentlemen, time is running out. I hope that you are preparing, because although many Americans cannot see it from within, countries from outside our borders are already acting and have been acting for the day when the dollar has no more significance to the world. It will have a lot of significance to us here in the United States and to any countries that peg their currency to the dollar or use the dollar as their currency. I think there's like 9 countries that do so. But it will not have any significance to them because they will have their own trading system, which they have been working on for years now. India to use cryptocurrency for trade and abandon the US dollar. Now, will they have to abandon the US dollar completely? No, ladies and gentlemen. But by them using less and less US dollars, along with all of these other countries that are joining the BRICS bloc, abandoning US dollars for the most part, it weakens the dollar. And it makes our lives here in the United States a lot more expensive than what it is now. It's already so much more expensive than what it was in the past 4 or 5 years, but it's going to get a lot worse than that. And it's why I advocate so much that we get prepared and that we stay prepared the best as possible. This has probably been way too long of a video. If you're still here and you listen through that story, thank you very much for your support. This is the best way that you can support the channel, is by allowing a video to go all the way through, and also by leaving a comment under the video once you're done watching it. Please give it a thumbs up. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for all of your support. I do hope that you got something out of this and that you share it with someone you love, especially with your children, so that our next generation can be informed instead of being abused the way that this and the past several have been through the power of inflation. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.